Mike Diamond is a renowned interventionist, author, and motivational speaker. His journey is one that's led him from a tough upbringing to becoming a true source of hope and transformation for those battling addiction. Known for his unyielding commitment to sobriety and personal growth, Mike opens up about the personal losses, deep self-work, and unwavering resilience that shape his life's calling. What follows are excerpts from a conversation about the realities of addiction, the power of awareness, and the courage it takes to face life's messiness.
Yeah, it's oh my God. Life is just strange. I can deal with it, but I tell you what, it's been a very interesting few years. A lot of deaths, like close friends die. I had 4 friends die in 4 weeks of brain cancer. Yeah. Like, and the crazy thing was, I've become that safe place, right, for people to talk with their kids or whatever, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm just going through some stuff," and then cancer, dead, and then another friend, like 4 in 4 weeks.
It's wild.
Yeah, and it's like, huh? And it's just, and then the interventions, because I'm on the show Intervention, the interventions are so intense because, I'm going in there to get kids out of crack houses that are smoking, 30 pills of fentanyl a day. And, is that, what's really interesting? Have you read this book, The Body Keeps the Score?
No, but I have heard of it.
Oh, well, I kind of knew what I was getting into before I read it because I'd done so much deep work on myself through like stuff like yin yoga, like just to stretch. And I was doing this yin yoga session one day. I discovered it. I came back from like, I'm dealing with all this grief, and I never had anyone to kind of that got me through it. I just would get sober and I just did it myself, right? And I was stretching a lot, but then one day I got into a stretch, and I had this thing where I would stretch for like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. That was it, and this different sequence. And one day I just sat in the stretch, and I could feel it was so weird. I was pushing into this stretch, and this really dark memory came up about my childhood, like really dark. And I was like, I'm going to go deeper in this stretch. I'm going to see what happens. And I went really deep in the stretch. It's called the dragon, where your legs are this way, and you go head to the floor, and like all this stuff, these memories came up of when I was 4, and I was like, my grandmother got me drunk when I was 4, and I took the blame for it. My parents said that I got myself drunk, and no one took responsibility, blamed my parents for years. And then things kept coming up with this guy Philip, and I was like, who is this guy? Why is he connected to me? That was my grandmother's friend. So it took me about 30. I was in this stretch for 30 minutes before my body settled. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this sequence again. And I said, I'm going to time every stretch for 5 minutes. I went the next day. I was stretching 3 hours a day because there was some stuff in me. I'd get up at 3 and stretch for 2 hours. And then in the afternoon, I would do another hour. And I'm like, I'm going to do 90 days straight. And it pulled out all this trauma that was in my body, and sexual abuse, all this stuff came up. It was stuck in my body. There's the thing called the issues are in your tissues. So the body remembers, but the implicit part of the brain shuts down to protect us. But that's why you can do all the talk therapy you want, but you're talking it, but it's still stuck in the cells, in the cellular memory. The body remembers. So I was like, what am I doing here? And I started to go deeper, and I realized I was intuitively doing yin yoga. And yin yoga is different to yang yoga. Yang yoga is quick movement, 1 minute stretches. And it's good for the muscular. Yin yoga is the fascia. You go deep into the fascia tissue to remove the trauma and everything that lays in the fascia. So I was like, I didn't even know I was doing this. So I went and got certified as a yin yoga teacher. And I started to realize I used to, as a child, run to regulate because I'd always run and I was a great runner. And when you run to regulate, I know I'm going to get regulated because when I push myself into that pain, the endorphins are going to kick. But the underlying issue stays in me. It's surface, lifting weights, yang movement. That's why we have a hostile world, because everyone is doing the out to try to deal with the trauma instead of going in and sitting with the trauma. We don't feel our feelings. We eat them, we smoke them, we drink them, we fight them, we fuck them, right? So I now do like 2 hours of deep stretching a day. Like deep. Like, I mean, my colitis is gone. I have no colitis. My stomach is always healed. Because what I didn't realize is, when I went and studied yin yoga, Chinese medicine, is the meridian lines of the body, right? These stretches clean up the blocked chi. They get rid of the trauma. They get rid of the issues in the tissues, and they remove it all and get all the toxins out of your body. So I didn't know why I was doing all this shit. But then all the grief, these deaths came in, and I was like, I'm okay. And it wasn't because I was in denial. I could deal with people talking to me about that shit and be really safe for them. And then it wasn't staying in my body. I wasn't carrying their grief for once. I wasn't angry because people weren't seeing them, because I always protect people, right? I do interventions. And I wasn't doing an intervention going, can't you see how much of a retarded parent you are? You abused your kid. That's why they're using drugs. I wasn't doing that because it wasn't in me. The story wasn't in my body anymore. You know what I mean? So every day now, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I get up and I do like an hour and a half, and it doesn't matter how I start. It's just, I don't carry, like, the past is not in my body anymore.
It's, quite a way to start a conversation, Mike.
Sorry. Well, I'm a pretty complex dude.
No, that is, I'm just trying not to cry right now. I'm really just kind of searching for where I'm just like marinating in
dude.
everything you just said. Like,
you asked me how I'm doing. It's never just I went out and had a soda and everything's fine. Like, I've got massive layers of shit and then I read a book like this, and it's like there is a level of I have a level of psychic intuition where I've always had it. Like, as a kid, like I just knew I can, and that's how I do interventions. I just knew I could do them. I get an intervention, I just know. I can dysregulate someone by building emotional contagions, by regulating myself. I am safe in chaos because I grew up in chaos. I was trained with dysregulated parents, a sick older brother, craziness. I've been around craziness, so I can. It's not. I got my 10,000 hours around psychos. I've had mobsters pull guns on me. I'm like, you're not going to shoot me. Put the gun down. Let's talk. Like, I've been around those. So what I learned was, and I was studying the pattern, and I looked at it, was teaching cycles and patterns. And I was sitting there in a stretch, and I'm like, oh my God, I can feel something shifting that was, when I was a kid, 2021. And I look at it, and it literally says you're going through a pattern and a cycle from when you were 20, 21 years old. And it was like, it's the stretching that I avoided when I was a kid at acting school. And I was sitting there and I said to myself, yeah, that's true. Like, I didn't heal when I was a kid. I had too much trauma. I had the wrong teachers. So I read a book a week. I either read Rational Emotional Therapy. I love that. Dr. Albert Ellis, who was before cognitive, and I start going to somatic because I believe you got to blend both. And then I read The Body Keeps the Score, and he says, and he's got 30 years of research. You know, he's a clinical psychologist. He's done all the research at Harvard. He goes, you've got to blend the both, the East and the West. He says it in his book. And he said the best thing to do is stretching, and kids should go to acting school. And I'm just like, this is the stuff I knew as a kid I was drawn to, but I never was coached. I was abused. I had bad mentors. And it's those kind of things now that when intuitively it feels right, I know how to do it. I have the tools to then, it's a lot of self-work, but like it's hours and hours and thousands of hours of working on myself and processing and writing and studying and saying, why do I feel this? Where does that come from? What's the core of the feeling? What's my motivation? Do you know what I mean? And then accepting people, because if I'm doing all this work and I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm going till at least 7 before my wife gets up, I have 4 hours with myself, right? I don't care what anyone else is doing. I got 4 hours on them, right? So they can do whatever they want. It's not personal to me. I give them a break. Right? Because if it takes me 4 hours to get set and that person just grabs a coffee and runs through the day and they're taking the resentments from yesterday, right? And they're just powering through life like I'm going to arrive somewhere, there's nowhere to go. You know the worst revelation I had? I was stretching my body the other morning and I thought, you know what sucks? I never feel good when I first wake up. It always hurts. And I thought if I had $100 million in the bank, I'd still have to stretch to feel good. And that's what we're trying to do. We think something outside of ourselves is going to relieve the work we've got to do inside to feel better. It's a lie.
You are in such an incredible space in your life right now. For the first time, you've got me a little speechless here. Wow.
I've been on a journey.
You've been on a journey, my friend. And what incredible learnings and revelations. And
Sorry, I was going to say, do you know what's really amazing? Like, I never went to school, like in the sense of I went to acting school. And I kind of, when I did the show Intervention, they gave me like the impossible intervention, and it was 4 kids living together. And there's a really good interventionist called Ken Seeley who's been on the show forever. And I think the most he'd ever done was 4 interventions. So I was like, I'll take it, I'll earn my stripes. And when we were doing the intervention, I'm like, oh, this is gonna work. I know how to do this. And I was working with this other interventionist, and I delayed my flight and stayed longer, and we got four people into treatment, and then I've stayed in touch with them, and they've all stayed sober. And it was weird because there's an incredible therapist, doctor called Dr. Shauna Shapiro. She's the mindfulness expert. And I asked her to write an endorsement for my book, and we became friends. And she called me and she said, I want to collaborate on a project with you. I said, well, you're Dr. Shauna Shapiro. Like, I watch your videos. Yeah, what do you want to do? And she's like, you can't explain what you're doing, but I have the science behind it. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you do something. You can do something that only I can see what you're doing, but I need to put a course behind your story. So we're working on this project together, right? And the fascinating thing is, because I didn't have the book, no one taught me how to read. Or I had dyslexia, and it was like, he's good at sports, he just doesn't pay attention. But they didn't know the trauma. I had my older brother in a coma at 8. No one pulled me aside and asked me how I felt. I watched him. I had, someone got me drunk at 4 and blamed me. My sister was 13 weeks premature. So I went, and I was a state champion runner as a kid, and everyone called me a show-off because I was, talented. So I didn't have a safe ground to process. And then my teacher would get me up when I was in 4th grade to read out loud, and I could barely read because I was dyslexic. And she would laugh at me and said, "You don't try hard enough. You're just good at sports, and you're a show-off." Instead of saying, "Oh, he can't read. Like, he needs a tutor." So I couldn't. So I would go inside myself and then figure out intuitively how to get by. And I read people in a second. And I got this incredible ability to shape things. So how I fell into acting was by fluke. I was in a chorus with my friend jerking off, and there was a play, and I didn't want to be on a play. I was good at sports. I was the fastest kid at school. And I was be in the back of the play, and I would remember, I didn't know I was photographic, what everyone would do, and I would tell them their lines and do the whole play after 3 or 4 weeks rehearsal. I remembered everyone's parts and would make him laugh because I didn't want to do it. Play was stupid. I wanted to play sports. So what happened is a couple of days before the play was supposed to go on, they're like, "We're going to cancel the play." There was two male leads and a female lead got the flu. And my friend ratted me out and said, "Mike can do one of the leads." And the sports teacher, Miss Plummer, I adored her because she loved me because I was good at sports. She said, "Can you really do?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember the whole thing." She goes, "How?" I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "Get up and sing and do the parts." I said, "I'll do that part." Yeah. And I got up in front of everyone. I didn't know that was a gift. I loved being in front of people, right? I could do it easy. I didn't know people were afraid to sing in front of me. I'd sing the songs and I did the parts. She's like, "You got one of the leads." I was like, "Cool." And then when I got there, I'm 12 years old, 11, 12, and it's full with people. And they're like, "Are you nervous?" I said, "About what?" They're like, "There's all these, it's like 500 people in the auditorium." I said, "This is great. I love doing this." Because I didn't know that was a power. I could get up in front of people, right? Because I wasn't reading, I was acting. I was having fun. I loved that. So I got up and nailed it. And I was like, wait, I can do this. Can't everyone else do this like this? So what happened is that gave me the motivation then to get out of Perth, because I was like, the first gig I ever got, I read an article in a paper, and they're like looking for actors and models, but you've got to be 18. I was 16. I was like, I was working at a grocery store. And I was like, I'm moving to America. That was my goal. I was in Perth. And I cut it out, found the address, put on a shirt and tie. I didn't know anything, but I'd acted once. So I believed I could act. I did it. I didn't tell him how long. So I walked in, there was a cattle call of people, and the guy goes, "Can you act?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Okay." So he put me on camera with this girl, and we're reading the scenes off. And because I couldn't really read well, so I would act. That was always my thing. I would move around it. I would look at the line and kind of move around it. And he's like, "You're fantastic. Let's put you in the other room." I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, we want to sign you." I said, "Oh, whatever." He's like, "Are you 18? I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you really?" I said, "Yeah." We didn't have ID back then. So I signed a piece of paper. And he's like, "Look, we're going to take photos of you in a week." And I said, I can't afford it. I don't have money. I work in a grocery store. And he's like, "Oh no, we pay for the photos. And then we put you out on auditions." And I was like, "You're going to pay for my photos?" I was like, "This is not going to happen." So I go home, don't say anything to my parents because they were always hating on me. They go to this photo shoot, I get these great shots done. And I'm like, they're never going to see any money. What does he mean? Book me on a job. I'm like, I just thought I got photos. I was so excited to get photos, right? 2 days later, he calls me. He goes, "Can you catch the bus to this address?" I said, "Yeah." So I go, "What is it?" He goes, "It's a casting." I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "It's an audition." Okay. So I go in and do a song and dance. And I don't know how good I am, or I just do my thing. I read the lines. And I'm on the way home, and my dad goes, the landline, "You're in trouble." I go, "What happened?" He's like, "Your agent called. You got a call back. You must have done bad at the interview." So I told him I was going for an audition. I was like, damn it. So I wasn't going to call. Check this out. So I called him, and I'm like panicking because anytime I got called back, it was like to the principal because I was getting in trouble because I got thrown out of school. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He's like, "For what?" And I'm like, "I got called back. What did I do wrong?" He's like, "You didn't do anything wrong." I go, "Why'd they call me back?" He's like, "Because they want to see you again." I go, "Why would they want to see me again?" He's like, "Because that's what happens." I go, "How many times are they going to call me back?" He goes, "I don't know. Just shut up and get on the bus." So I got it. I landed the job. My first acting commercial. But here's the disappointing thing. This is so funny because the universe gives you crumbs. I was waiting for it to air and they cut me out. And I was devastated. But I got my check, which proved I did it. because my parents were like, you're never going to do anything, because it was always the hate, right? So what did I do? I landed another commercial and I told no one, and it didn't air either. I was like, this is my life. But it gave me the motivation to move to Sydney and audition for acting school. And that's what I've always been able to do intuitively. Like, I took my skills as an actor and I knew I could do intervention. So when I put myself out there, they weren't looking for any interventionists. My friend, who I'd known 20 years, got the part. I fired my agent. My agent was useless. I said, just get me in front of the network. Just get me in front of the network and I'm good on tape. He's like, okay. So the network put me on and they called him. They're like, he's good. He's crazy. He's fucking crazy. He's like, can he do it? And he's like, oh yeah, he's proven. Like, he's a good interventionist. They're like, you know what? Let's give him a shot. And that's how I got on the show.
That is so
I always step in. I have so much faith. I'm opposite to people. You know how people say they'll feel good when they arrive? I don't worry about that. I just do it no matter how I feel. And I have faith I'll arrive.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't care how I feel. I don't take my feel. Like, people wake up like they're supposed to feel good because they're sold on this. I don't wake up feeling good. I don't care how I feel. I don't care. I don't chase the short fix anymore, because I did that. I snorted cocaine to feel good, and then it was disastrous, right? So I don't chase that. I don't care. I wake up and I never feel bad that I don't feel good. So people say, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. Why? So then we chase the pills, we chase the sex, we chase the drugs, we chase the scroll all day. I'm like, I wake up and feel like crap. I come down at 3 a.m. I'm like, oh God, I feel like 102. Gonna have to stretch, because I know once I stretch, I'll feel good. I'm gonna have to do my breath work. Right? I don't drink caffeine for 90 minutes because I know if I wait and then I drink it afterwards, you know what I mean? I'll get I let my body, my cortisol spikes correctly, comes down. I don't have the caffeine and the cortisol when you first wake up and you're crazy. And people go, so you just do it. I said, I don't care how I feel. I don't take it personal. Do you know what I mean? So people think I don't feel good and they take it personal because they're sold on this illusion that they're supposed to feel a certain way. It's bullshit.
No, that makes so much sense, and that's how society has sort of groomed us, or how we've groomed ourselves to say that if we're feeling bad, something's wrong. If we're feeling bad, something needs to change. So we look for something, to your point, outside of us to fix that something that's wrong with me. When
so
really,
what's bad? But what's bad? It's all subjective, right? I go through my stretches, and I was taking a guy through a yin yoga class. He goes, oh, I'm going to pull a muscle. I'm like, it's all blocked fascia tissue, right? Pulling a muscle. Keep going. And he pushed through it and it all released. And he's like, oh my God, I thought I was going to pull a muscle. I said, see, your brain is like, I go into stretches that I couldn't go into before that I would think I was going to pull them. I'm not going to pull a muscle. It's just tight. It needs to be slowly worked. I take people through breathing techniques and they're like, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm like, you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You ain't going to have a heart attack. You're so far from dying. How can you? No, seriously, like, you're in a panic because you're breathing correctly. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I tell people, think about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, personally, I have found where I'll find myself almost holding my breath sometimes. I'll be so focused on work and I'm like, I'm not breathing real breaths.
Yeah. No.
And maybe that's a normal thing.
No, because what it is, it's a protection thing. Like I was on the other day, like I had to do an audition for something, and it's not my comfort zone to read off cue cards, off teleprompters, right? But I was working with someone that does it for a living. They're on the entertainment. But I learned the script before, make sure I meticulously learn it, and then I go back. And when we're doing it, the teleprompter comes down. I said, stop right there. And they're like, why? I'm like, she reads way quicker than I do. I need space. I'm like, no problem. And I had the confidence to say, I don't read as fast as her on a teleprompter. She's trained. She's way better. Like, it was coming down. I'm like, whoa. No. I'd be screaming through that like I'd done a lot of cocaine. And so when I read it back, in my pace. I own it. And I always go back to my body. I'm regulated. I'm calm. I'm breathing. I'm centered. And when I deliver it, because I center myself, because I do those rituals in the morning, because I know how to center myself. It's a process, a practice. I practice it in the morning. So I know what it feels like to be centered. So when I'm not centered and I'm in my sympathetic nervous system and I'm moving, I come back. I'm like, I know how to center myself. So when I'm uncentered, when something's, I'm like, no, I can't do it that way. I can't. We have different practice. She's better at reading like that. And what happens? I'm like, no problems. And then when it comes back, I know it's good. I know it's good because I was centered. I did a TV spot the other day and they called me short notice. It's for a big network, Dr. Fields. And my publicist goes, will you be calm? I'm like, yeah. No matter what, I can do it on the fly. And I'm calm and I breathe before. I'm always on the Zoom 15 minutes early. I'm centered. I make sure it sounds good. I'm centered. Even with the live show, I'm centered. So when someone's asking me something, I'm focused on them. And then I know how I'm going to respond because I'm calm. I'm not like, what are they going to say? I'm like, I'm just listening to what they say. And then when it comes back and I leave it, my inner critic's not going, oh. I'm like, no, I was centered. It'll be fine. And they come back, oh, you were so grounded. You were so centered. Yeah, because I practice centering myself now.
Mm-hmm. And you think it's also because you're able to release, how you'd mentioned just moments ago, that you were able to release your past. So you're not carrying, because how can you really truly be present if you're even subconsciously carrying all of that?
If your body's in the past, you're not present.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we carry those cell memories in the explicit brain. So think about it. You have a shocking memory, right? The explicit memory shuts down to protect us. It's too much to deal with. You're overridden. But if you've got a spike of adrenaline, right, which you do, it's a big charge in the body. Mm-hmm. So the subconscious mind's going to hold on to something. Then you add in sensory because the senses pick up other things in this subconscious, unconscious mind, right? Mm-hmm. So you may smell something, you may see something, it triggers it, right? Mm-hmm. The memory's there somewhere buried. And you see people all the time, you're like, I can't explain it. I do all this work, but I just don't feel right. Exactly. Because you're trying to think your way into feeling better. You don't work like that. That's why all the talk therapy is great if you add in the somatic therapy. We've got to feel our feelings. Mm-hmm. Then, once you feel the feelings, and that's why, look, I love rational emotional behavior therapy, but now they have mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Now, very simple. Give you an example. I like to blend them both, and I'll tell you why. If I am triggered, that means my sympathetic nervous system is taking charge. It doesn't matter if I tell you all day, hey, I'm going to think clearly. I'm going to reframe what I'm thinking. That's cognitive behavior, right? You can't do that while your sympathetic nervous system is moving. You've been hijacked by the primitive part of your brain. The primitive part of the brain and the logical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, are two different parts. What is the only way for me to slow down my sympathetic nervous system? Breathing. So I am triggered. I can admit it. I feel my feelings. Feeling, then emotion. I feel, and then the emotion, right? So the feeling, then you pull the trigger if you don't know how to regulate, correct? You can't do that thinking. So if I go, I feel agitated. Now what I'm going to do, right? Because if I feel agitated, it's different than screaming at someone and being angry, right? Mm-hmm. Acting out. I feel agitated. Okay, let me breathe diaphragmatically. Let me breathe in my nose, expand my diaphragm, and do some 4-7-8 breathing, which is breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out slowly for 8. Now, if you extend the exhale, you are going to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, rest, digest, and restore. So I stop, I breathe, do some 4-7-8. Now I'm regulating so I can think clearly. Remember, people say I was so emotional, I wasn't thinking. Exactly. You were hijacked. Regulate. Now, let's rationally reframe the experience. Why am I frustrated? There has to be some kind of threat. I have a desired result. I'm not getting what I want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's reframe that and accept myself for being triggered, accept the other person for being fallible and human,
Mm-hmm.
not take it personal, and let's figure out if I can have a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I get in the practice of identifying my feelings, that's true emotional intelligence, right? To be self-aware and become emotionally intelligent with our emotions, and I breathe diaphragmatically, then I use some rational emotive behavioral therapy or cognitive therapy to reframe, right, my thinking, and I proceed. Viktor Frankl talks about it. Create a gap between stimulus coming in and how you choose to respond. It's a practice.
I feel like everything in life is a practice.
Everything's practice, right?
And it's not practice that's meant to be perfect. That's not the outcome, yeah?
No, it's practice equals progress.
Oh, I like that.
No such thing as perfection. That's all I do. I practice the progress. That's it. I don't have perfection. Everyone wants the masterpiece. Check here. That's a painting, right? That's the masterpiece. Okay? We put on the headphones, we listen to the masterpiece, the song. We go to the movie cinema, we look the masterpiece on the screen. Everyone wants to create the masterpiece, but no one wants to make the mess. You cannot create a masterpiece without a mess. So when we go to the studio and we watch the band rehearsing, we don't see that. We're being conned. Everyone says it's perfect. It's process. The process is messy. Okay? So what do? I live in the mess. I created the mess. I love the process. I love that it's ugly. I love that it's obnoxious. I love that it hurts. I love that because I know people think they're going to get the trophy. You don't get the trophy if you don't train.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No one wants to do the training and the practices.
It makes me think when you reference like the masterpiece, whether it's a song or a piece of art and all the things, it makes me think about the masterpiece of ourselves, the version of
Well, it
ourselves that we
is.
want to be, and for us to not, to your point, we have to be comfortable with being messy and take ownership of being messy, not just the end result, but what's resulting in real time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the process. Look, here's the thing. What is the human experience? It is messy, it is complex, it is hard, but we all are searching to reach our potential, and everyone's potential is different, right? So yeah, there's certain grading systems. If you run in the Olympics, think about this. The other day, I used to sprint, right? And I was a good sprinter. I wasn't world class, but I was a really good sprinter, state champion, whatever. And I thought to myself the other day, like, imagine running under 10 seconds. That is very fast for a man to any human being to run under 10 seconds. I watched the 100-meter final. First to ninth ran under 10 seconds. Imagine coming home, training for 4 years, running 9.99 in the 100 meters and running ninth. 8 other people are faster than you. Now you go home and you tell people you're in the Olympics, you're around under 10 seconds. They're like, that's extreme. You're that fast. You're like, yeah, but there's 8 other people faster than me. So if I don't figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I'm going to be the fastest guy running pizzas home. But think about that. You train, there's no such thing as perfection. Now, on that any given day, right? Let's just say that guy that came 8th got a better start and did something different. He all of a sudden is in the top 3. There was between 1 and 8, it was, they all hit the line at the same time. That's not perfection. That's just, you don't know who's going to get there sometimes, right? The point is to get up every day and do your best. That's it. So someone said to me the other day, how do you get sober? I'm like, I made a commitment as soon as I walked in to not drink or do cocaine again. That was it, no matter how I felt. They're like, but how'd you do that? I said, stop. I made a commitment to not drink or do cocaine and alter my mood with an external substance, no matter how I felt. Yeah, but no, stop. I made a commitment, no matter how I felt, to not alter my mood with the substance. That's it. Now do it. Yeah, but you don't understand. I don't understand why. Yeah, but people are going to die. Okay, so make a commitment. So what do? You reach out to people, you talk to them, right? Human connection.
Mm.
You do some yoga, you do some breath work, you do whatever you're going to do, you commit. Everyone wants the result, but they don't want to commit to the work. It's work that has no end. Right? Yesterday's food doesn't keep us full today. It doesn't matter what I did yesterday. It's what I'm doing right now on the call with you. And you know what I love about it now? Because I've got experiences. Like, see, people do affirmations, right? And they're like, and they do affirmations all day. And I'm like, The Secret was a great movie, for example, right? And it missed one thing. It said, ask, believe, and you'll receive. Look at this like this. Ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to lose 100 pounds. Right? Believe, I believe I can. Receive. Okay. Are you going to lose 100 pounds? No. Why? Ask, believe, take massive action in alignment with what you want to receive, and you will receive it. It doesn't talk about action.
Yeah.
People don't want to take action. See the difference?
Mm-hmm.
People think manifestation is this great miracle. Oh, manifest this, manifest that, manifest this. I said, yeah, you can move, God can move mountains, but you better bring a fucking shovel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone lives in the foo-foo. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. It's work. And everyone's looking for this next video or this next person that's going to teach them the way and the light. It's basic shit. You've got to work on yourself, and it's hard work. And it takes self-discipline, consistent. You've got to work, do a lot of practices. You've got to delay gratification, right? You've got to not worry about people's opinions because we've all got a different time zone. Don't get comparison syndrome, right? And just work on yourself and be kind to yourself. No one's got to figure it out.
Mike, thank you so much for
No problem.
taking this time. Thank you for, I had all kinds of questions I had prepared. I'm so glad that I didn't ask a single one. I'm so incredibly thankful that, thank goodness I didn't ask any of them because
well,
no.
Ask me. I'm not one of those guys that kind of jukes around. I go straight in. Like,
you know what you shared today was exactly perfect, and it was exactly the story that needed to be shared and that needed to be told. In alignment in accordance to the universe, I quite imagine, as opposed to prepared questions. It was, and while being prepared is quite important, this process, allowing it to be so natural and organic. I will say the story that you've shared today is a story that I needed to hear personally.
Okay. See, that's how the universe works.
Well, I seriously appreciate you and thank you for this conversation, for sharing this space with me, for helping now all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Of course.